Okay, great. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to coaching. Today, we're going to improve our marketing presentation skills. Top 10 ways to do that. We're going to jump right into it, feeling very refreshed, coming back from a few days off, and glad to be back with you guys. A couple weeks ago, I attended Realty Alliance. It's a group of independent brokers for the most part, a lot of I say independently owned brokerages that come together about once a year for a formal meeting. This time it was in Atlanta. Lots of good takeaways I want to share with you. And it sparked a lot of thought about how we can improve our presentation. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into this. Go ahead and, hey, by the way, thanks for you guys, managers that are here, Jill, Kevin, I see on my screen. Glad you guys could join us this morning. Feel free to weigh in at any time, anyone, and I'll try to manage the chat here. Okay, blank piece of paper. If you've got one, let me take you kind of, I'm gonna try to take you through a different perspective here about how we define the market. So this is tip number one. I'm gonna call it expanding our view and definition of market. So if you wanna write that down, expanding view and definition of market. Tip number one, okay? So running start on this. So let me give that tip again. Expanding view and defining market. Okay, so better defining market, however you want to say that. That's the tip. That's the first thing that I think that we ought to improve or look at, sharpen our saw on. So here is the question, I think, in practical terms, you're meeting with a seller. Okay, why don't we think of our own properties that we're in right now, or you can think of a listing that you're trying to acquire. And here is the question for the seller. What is the home's best feature? Why did you buy it? What drew you to this? When you first saw it, what did you say? Wow, man, that's impressive. Really like that. Go ahead and write whatever that is down. Whatever, you can use your own house if you like. Like, what do you like most about your home? And write that down. Okay, you guys got it? Okay, so let's put that on the shelf for a second and get a running start at this concept. I think a lot of us get in the habit of defining market by area, right? We could say Old Town, that's an area. We could say Cottonwood Heights. We could say, St. George. All right, so we can define a market by area. I think we always do that. I think appraisers, given the fact that they need a 6-block radius in most cases without a variance, that it draws us to first define market by area. I think it's amateur to do that. I think we need to define this broader. We need to do a better job of looking at market. So the next one, which is, so you guys write these down, will you? So area or geographic location is one. Number two would be price points. Number two is price points. So we would say something like, the $1 million to $1.5 million market, okay? All right, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. So we've got a geographical area. Now we have a price point area. I just asked you a question on what the feature is that is, stands out from this property. So now we want to create a feature or amenities market. Okay. So that'd be number three, feature or amenity market. Feature or amenity market, which you probably wrote down. So it could be something like every property with a pool. That becomes its own competition. Okay. Steve Chin just gave us a great one. New construction. So it'd be the age of the house. The best thing about the property is it's brand new. Never been lived in. Okay. We also do things like, here's the next category. So we're at category number 4. Category number 4 would be the style or type of property, which would be condo market, townhome market, right? Single family market, rental market, duplex market. I could go on and on and on, okay? So style or type of property is also a market. We might say something like horse property, right? We could also say ramblers, the rambler market. Back to features and amenities. Let me ask you guys, what did you write down? What was the thing that stood out the most? Anyone want to weigh in on that? What stood out the most? Go ahead and put it in the chat if you'd like. I mean, what was the thing that, okay, views. So think about now defining the property as every property with a view. And I know that views particularly could be subjective, because we could always say, I can see the peak of the mountain somewhere. Does that qualify as a view? So, I mean, maybe that might be a little bit more subjective. What else did you put down? What features? On-site management, okay? So everything that has on-site management becomes its own market, okay? Mountain runs, trails, things like that, open spaces, okay? So everything that is near open spaces now becomes what? Its own market. Same with ski in, ski out, its own market. Anything that's private or secluded now becomes its own market. I'm gonna add to this while you guys are typing in. What about things like every 5-bedroom property becomes its own market? How about 3 family rooms? A loft becomes its own market. A barn, decks, patios become its own market. Outdoor kitchen becomes its own market. What we're doing here is we're looking at through the lenses of a perspective that is more, I think, more accurate to what the buyers are comparing, okay? They don't always go looking at area, even though many do. They don't always go looking at price, although many do. They also look at it from amenities and features that they want. And now everything with that feature becomes competition amongst itself, therefore defining its market. Everybody got me there?
Yep.
Okay,
would you consider something like 9th and 9th, the shopping area there? Would that be features and amenities, or would that be geographic, or both?
First, to me, Jeff, that because it's defined by 9th and 9th, and I understand if you guys work in Salt Lake, if you don't, 9th and 9th is a very classic area. It's walking distance to things. It's a walking community. These are homes that were built in the early 1900s. They're beautiful. They have kind of a style to them, but a walking community and 9th and 9th to me would be area market. Okay. So I've had people say to me, well, it's the kitchen, it's this gourmet kitchen. So if a buyer is looking at a property, gourmet kitchen, now we can define the market through everything that has a gourmet kitchen. What about garages, RV spaces, right? Everything that has a 4-car garage now becomes its own market and competition amongst itself. Okay. This is the difference in an amateur agent and a professional agent. Looking at market through the lenses from a broader perspective and better defining what market means. Let me dig a little deeper into this. Well, now that we define the market, what do we do with this? We pull every single comparable, active, under contract, sold, and boy, if there is an expired, we would pull it, right? If we're comparing against new construction, we only pull new construction to see what we're up against. If we're only talking about everything with a pool or a view, again, only those amenities. Now we define our competition. It paints a better picture for us, lights our path better. Okay. Remember, the number one answer a seller needs from you is, what's the value of my property? If you only approach it through CMA and comparable approach, you're missing, I think, a higher level and a better way to define the market. Okay. And by the way, you'll be speaking to them through what they love about their property, right? Think about that. You're going to get it, like you get what's great about their property. Okay. Okay. That is tip number 1. Before I change the channel, anyone want to add to this? So I've got 10 tips today, right? So anyone want to add to this? Do you like that perspective? You think that'll help you?
I do. Well, I would say one thing with regards to comparing properties with pools. When I'm doing that, I always also compare to homes with more acreage where you could add a pool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the pool's possible. The pool could be placed in now. So that would be a marriage of comparable and cost approach if we get technical about it. The cost of the pool could be added, right? So you know, it's $100,000 pool. There's space for it. It can be added. Now we can compare because there is space. Absence of the space, pool couldn't go there. It's probably not likely to be something that would compete with the other properties that have pools. Very good point.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else want to add to this before I turn the channel? Okay, so remember, we're looking at through the lenses of what our competition is through what a feature or amenity is. Okay, not just area, not just price, not just style and type. Okay, we're looking at it through the lenses of amenities. Everything with an RV garage, right? Everything with a pool. Okay. All right, tip number 2. I think I need like some background music or something, you know. Okay, tip number 2. It's a common equation I say often. I hope you guys know what this is. So let me say the first 2 pieces of it and you tell me what the third one is. Ready? Problem / solution equals what? Angie's going to know this because you guys, Angie's heard me more than anyone. The fact that she's on here today, she deserves a medal. Hi, Angie. Yes, Janet, you're right. So value. Okay, so the equation is problem, solution, value. Okay, so in order to improve our ability to communicate, you know, in a listing and marketing environment, whether by email, some of us have, you know, distant sellers, or whether that is in person. I would like you to remember that if you need to think problem, solution, value, and you got to slow down and you're gonna have to talk about the problems. I know, look, we're not negative people, okay, but the problems are real, you know, the problems are real. So you're gonna have to dive into them on what can happen and how we avoid that. So this is really a take time to educate on what the problems are. If you're finding yourself getting asked frequently whether you will lower your commission, then I'm telling you, you're not talking about problem and solution. Okay, so see, here's part of the problem is they don't know there's problems. All right, and we're our own worst enemy because you guys are so good, you make it look too easy. Okay, so you're going to have to slow down and talk about the potential problems. So problem, solution, value. Okay, let's go to number 3, and I want to talk about shifting challenges. Number 3, shifting challenges. So shifting challenges, what I mean by this is that what is easier today was really difficult in the past, and what was easy in the past is very, very challenging today. Okay, so I want to be careful about us inadvertently saying that it's easier today than it's ever been, and because it's not. And you know, we do have a lot of uncertainty right now with interest rates rising, a potential war, inflation. We've all heard this on sales meetings, so we all know that there is some level of uncertainty. Real estate seems to be a safe place, you know, to invest. It's also an asset that can be used, and I don't need to go on all the reasons why we should own real estate, but there are new challenges today that we haven't had in the past. So this is all part of a subset of talking about problem, solution, and value, is that we need to talk about what the new problems are. Okay, so really the trick today, I think, overarching when we're talking about netting the most for a seller, and everyone write that down, the number 1 objective of every seller is to net the most. It's their bottom line. I think we all agree with that, but we have to speak in benefit. We speak not in what we do, but why we do it. So what we do are the details, and why we do it is to net them the most. Everyone understand that? You don't expect them to get it, okay? You have to connect the dots. You have to translate it. I often say it's a language. Well, it's the language of benefit. So when we're talking about shifting challenges and problems and solution, remember, your speaking solution really is speaking wisdom. It's speaking why. Okay, it's the overall result. So don't just assume that they're going to understand the why. Okay, so speak in benefit. Okay, so under shifting challenges, Look, we were asked as a group in Realty Alliance to really talk about what's the new challenges are. Okay. Can I just give them to you and then you just write them down? And would that be helpful? And then maybe this, so what we do is, guys, is we place this in the problem section. Okay. So problem, solution, value. What are the new challenges? What are the new problems that we need to solve? Okay. So, of course, when we do that, we have value. Everybody good? Yep. Thanks, Wendy, for nodding. Thanks, Jessica. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to give you everything that our group came up with. Here we go. So this is the first one is low inventory, which I think is obvious and you guys know this, right? But what happens when we have low inventory? Now we have the effect of low inventory. So there's now challenges and problems with low inventory. Okay. Look, if you guys have been in real estate longer than 10 years, you'll remember when we had high inventory. And there were challenges with that, like days on market, like 6-month listings, 1-year listings that would never get an offer, listings that only had 3 or 4 showings. That was a challenge then. Now we have a challenge with the opposite effect. We have low inventory. So what are the challenges? Here is, now we have to spend time vetting a buyer. We spend more time now making sure that we go under contract with the buyer that has the ability to perform. So ready, willing, able. They're ready, they're willing, they wrote an offer, they saw the property, all that's great. Are they able? So, this is where we start talking about these cash buyers and the kind of strength of their offer and things like that. So listing agents should spend more time vetting buyers. That's phone calls to loan officers. It's asking the right questions, okay? And really digging into, so you can present that to sellers. There's more time spent there. New challenge. Next one, complex contract terms. I know you guys have seen this. Now we're lucky at Brookshire to have, with in-house counsel and crazy brokers, not just me, that love forms. We have a plethora of assets to draw upon, but not every agent does. And we're seeing crazy language coming out of other companies and agents, and they just write addendums, and listing agents have to go through that, right? So here is your problem, therefore now your solution, right? Complex contract language. What do I mean by that? Multiple escalation clauses. Need I say more? And they're all different escalation clauses because the UAR hasn't written one, nor will they. Okay. Next one, understanding NAR's clear cooperation policy. Completely new challenge. It wasn't even around even 3 years ago. It didn't exist in any other market. We weren't talking about clear cooperation. But now you have to know that. You have to know the rules of the game. Otherwise, you could harm a seller. Problem, solution, value. Problem, solution, value. What's the problem? There are problems in the way the MLS demands its members act when it comes to marketing property. Understanding clear cooperation. Okay, next one. Kind of brought this one up already, but pricing, very, very difficult because the under contracts haven't closed yet. And they very well could be above asking price. Okay. Problem, solution, value. What's the problem? Problem, pricing. Why is that a problem? Because the best comparables are the ones that are under contract because they're the most recent. So now we are needing to dig in a little deeper to find out what is likely to close so I can use that as a comp, and that can better light our path on what our sales price should be. Trust me, guys, if you're speaking like this, your seller is never going to ask you about a price reduction on your, or a reduction on your commission. Okay. You'll be a magnet. Next one. It's kind of akin to pricing. It's appraisal challenges. Now, fortunately, we haven't had many of these, but they are common enough to be a problem because appreciation is subjective. Appraisers can use older comps and then put a number to it. We have to dig in deeper into that. We can't just say, well, it sold for this, make adjustments. We often need time on market adjustment. And this is, again, very subjective. Okay. So why is this So why is this a problem? Because if we get into an under contract with buyer, they cannot get the appraisal that they need, they're not get the loan they want, we'll find ourselves back on the market. Only this time we have a failed sale, which doesn't always look so great to new buyers. Okay. So they go, oh boy, I don't want that to happen. Right. So you're connecting the dots there. Now we've got the value is just realized, right? This one kind of came up as this is, I think we heard this in the past, but it was, I wrote it down in part of our group. This is kind of something new. We're trying to light the path of preferences that the seller has in agent remarks on the MLS. So not just, hey, this is my price, but we may also put in the agent remarks things like preferred possession. Think about that. Okay, now this is something completely new. It's a new challenge. It's a new discussion. So we're getting out ahead of these buyers saying, before you write an offer, let me tell you what some of the seller's preferences are. Okay. And that's something new. All right, big one here, really big one. It's talked about in sales meeting. You know, I said we had to vet the buyer. We're not only vetting buyers like, you know, are you qualified to these things like that, but we're going to have to start asking some different questions about whether or not they're using cash programs and bridging programs. Because if they are, we want to make sure we're speaking to the right underwriter, not the permanent financing underwriter, but the one that's doing the bridge financing. Look, at about this point of the conversation, if I had a seller listening to all of this, or they were attending this coaching session, they want you and they'll pay you 6%. Done, 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 and done. Why? Because look at these problems. Okay. And you are the solution. And when you're the solution, you have value. Okay, so that is under the category number 3 of shifting challenges. Anything else come to mind? Shifting challenges. I mean, there's some tried and true in here. I didn't write down like things like, you know, technologies are constantly evolving. I didn't put some of those things because they've always been evolving. I've kind of looked at it through the lenses of what are we seeing today that we've not seen in previous market cycles. You guys have anything else you want to add to that? New challenges for today that we have not seen in other past markets.
So, Will, you know what I think is something we're thinking about is your comments there are terrific. I think you're sharing upfront the value you provide to the seller. And I think maybe to help us, like we've been talking about, having an FAQ, like you go, what are the questions the seller will ask? And then also, what are questions they don't know to ask that they should ask? Like you were talking, the complexity of contracts. Hey, the complexity of multiple offers. And I think you create the problems or objection. They go, oh, wow, you are going to be the solution for me in many of these areas I didn't even realize. Again, we were thinking about having an FAQ makes it easy to show them that these are things that often happen in our market under transactions. And then it helps you as a checklist that you don't miss anything. Plus also they go, oh, wow, here are items we hadn't thought of. Anyway, just a thought.
It's a great thought, Steve. And Jill Stringham brought up something, I think, Jill, it's probably been 6 months or so ago. And we were kind of, the idea was I would call it a seller's disclosure, but it's not property disclosure. It was like putting in writing some of the things that Steve was saying, like sellers they don't know what to ask.
Right.
Okay. So we could create paragraphs of things like, you may not know what to ask. We know what you should ask. And here are some of the solutions in which we have, and it's bringing to light obstacles and problems. We need to bring that to life, don't we, Jill? I think it's been baked enough as far as thinking about it. I think there's some legs to that. I don't know if you remember in a previous coaching, we even said maybe we even have signatures on it, because it forces a seller to kind of put their eyes on these things. And I think it would be a nice part of your presentation. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be mandatory. I don't want to, I'm not trying to complicate a already complicated paper process, but there are things they don't know what to ask. So really good point.
Well, also, Will, it's, sellers could say, well, you never told me about that. Why didn't you bring this up about it? And I wasn't aware of that. But if you had some kind of a seller's disclosure that they signed saying, well, you signed the seller disclosure of this market and what to expect, then it kind of takes us off the hook as far as the lack of communication that an agent might have with a client.
Yeah, really, really good point. I think the number one reason to do the form is this equation, problem, solution, value. Okay, they don't know what the problems are, guys, and you make it look too easy. So you're gonna have to tell them what the problems are. Yeah, I mean, you guys, I hate to say this because we could be facing the Phoenix Suns, but right now in the playoffs, Chris Paul can get any 2-point basket he wants, and I don't really want the Suns to win. I'm not, hope my brother-in-law's not around to hear this. We have Arizona family who loves this. All of a sudden, everyone's a Suns fan, but Chris Paul can get a 2-point shot anytime. You guys you look like it's just too easy. This is too easy, and we have to kind of start getting back to what the problems are. Kev, you got anything to add to this?
I would just say we need to vet our sellers too. The call yesterday on the stats, the term aspirational seller was great. People who are not really wanting to sell the property, they're just speculating. They want to waste our time. Comes to mind a conversation I had a couple of days ago with one of our agents. He had sold this property 2 years ago to an individual. The guy had a $1 million gain, and he was wanting to price it like at 1.5 above what he bought it for 2 years ago, and he wanted to pay 4%. And my suggestion is walk away. We were able to eventually get him to come up to the commission if we could get him full price. But sometimes we need to just be careful about our time is our life, and we could be spending time with other sellers who are not aspirational, who are not just fishing in the market and trying to use us and abuse us. And there's never really a sale at the end of that.
Great point, Kev. I think through our careers, we've all spent time, invested time. I don't want to say wasted time because everything is a lesson in life, but we've all invested a lot of time on clients that just didn't, it didn't have real expectations. And so I think that's a really, really good point. Okay, we got a lot to cover still, and we're halfway through the time. So let's go on to number 4. Okay, brought this one up, but if you're not doing this, man, start doing it right away. You guys know what this is, right? It's not in focus. There it is.
Forms book.
Forms book. Okay, and I've got a really, really thick version of this because it has the Idaho forms. Look, if you want a thread of gratitude, just remind yourself that you don't have to have any understanding of what goes on in Idaho real estate law. As fun as that, is. So, okay, here's the thing. We've got, again, problem, solution, value. So number 4 is navigating complex contract terms, whatever you want to call it, or contracts, okay? Navigating complicated contracts. This one to me has always been my ace of spades. I think this is where you really, really shine. It's the reason why Zillow and other technology companies cannot rinse and repeat you, because every state is different and every state is complicated. We certainly have many, 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 many additions to the real estate forms library in the last 20 years, right? Raise your hand if you have been in the real estate industry for 20 years or more. Well, then, there it is, Sally, Kevin, you've been through the evolution Frankly, I think we need a licensing adjustment to the requirements to get a license. There should be a lot more time spent on navigating, the complexities of a contract. Like if you haven't mastered how to deal with multiple escalation clauses, then you need to do that right away. Okay. But there's bigger than that. So what you do here is you start off with memorizing the table of contents of the forms manual. Just memorize where things are. The purpose of this, look, it's not to replace anything in the cloud. Okay, that's bigger thinking here. Okay, its primary purpose is to have an easy to reference visual aid that you can teach and present from. It's a visual piece of your listing presentation. I'll say it again, it's a visual piece of your listing presentation. I think it's your ace of spades. So if you're not using it, use it right away. This is a tool that should be your best tool. Okay. So you memorize where things are. So now you get a question, something like this, something like, okay, what kind of things in my property do I need to warranty? Now, I think it's fine to answer some questions without a visual aid. I'm not saying you always turn to this, but redo your thinking on the process here. Instead of just answering it, turn to the section of the agreements that deal with what the seller's obligations are. So everybody knows what section this is, right? We would turn to the REPC. We would turn to section 10 in the 10 sections there, and we have all of the condition issues that are listed there. So the transition language here is simply something like this. You say, that's a great question, Steve. I'm really glad you brought that up. Many of our sellers do. It's something we're really concerned about. I think what might be best is let's take a look at the section of the agreement that addresses seller's warranty obligations. See? Now I've injected the agreement into my visual presentation. Okay? And what I'm now showing them is confidence, proficiencies, right? In what these agreements say and what they do. I turn the book around and I face them if I can. If I'm on a Zoom meeting or it's digital or something like this, I could still use that section. I could circle it, send it, and say, if this is further, answering your question. The point here is that we use our contracts as not the thing we complain about, but our advantage in showing value. Okay. Problem is they're complicated. You're the solution. If you skip over this, you miss the chance to build value. I think this is the number one tip. I think it's the number one thing. I mean, if I could only bring one arrow in my quiver or one tool in my toolbox, this would be the one I'd bring. Because it's just that complicated. Again, remember, you guys make it look easy. So you go, well, it's really not that complicated. Well, it may not be complicated to you, and I hope it isn't. It should be second nature to you, but contract terms. Anyone want to add to that? How many of you do that? Have you found yourself saying, hey, that's a great question. Let's take a look at the agreement. Are you doing that? How many of you do that? How many feel like you need to do that? Like now it's a goal. Well, feel free to tell your peers, because if you do, you're likely to do it. I mean, Kevin, do you agree with me? Don't you think that's an ace of spades?
Absolutely. If you can answer a question directly from the contracts and directly from the agreement, it just shows that you know what you're doing, and it adds credibility to what you're saying. When you just wing it and you don't point to the source, a lot of times you may not come across as genuine, or the bell doesn't ring true. Sounds like a cracked bell when you say it. So, but if you say it with the document right there in front and answer it from the document, it's a lot more powerful.
Thank you, Kevin. There's another conversation going on in their head, right? Should I hire you? Are you my agent? Am I going to pay you 6%? Really? 6% of $2.5 million? Am I going to pay you that? This is what's going on, right? There's another thing going on in their head. It's not just the question they're asking. They're having another bigger question, which are you going to be their advocate? Are you going to be their agent? I think if you want to really hit the the vein here. I would, and I'm talking about a vein of gold, not necessarily a vein carries blood here. But if you want to hit the gold vein, I would go right to the escalation clauses, because we're likely to see some of these guys and they're very complicated. You know, we've got, here's the price, here's how much above, here's if it escalates, you know, you've got these pieces to it. And we've also got concessions that might be in there. Gosh, when they start to see this, and then you say, well, look at multiple, you know, agreements like this, right? Value. Okay. Is this fun?
Yeah.
This is fun.
Great. Yep.
Who needs a vacation when it's always fun to work? Okay, ready for another one? Okay, this is number 5. God, I hope we can get through all these. Okay, this one is kind of an activity. Would you go to the chat, and I'd like you to just think of, okay, so clear your mind for a second. You're an expert in real estate. Let's suppose that HR is asking you, what is the number one quality that a real estate agent should have? Okay, so go ahead and put that in the chat. The number one quality an agent should have. There's a little method to the madness here, so just let them fly. Don't overthink it. Just there's no really one right answer either. So don't think like you have to try to think what I'm thinking. Just go ahead and put in whatever you think. The number one, you know, quality of a real estate agent. I'll kind of let you guys get them all in the chat there. Okay, number one quality. These are some good answers, you guys. I think you guys can see all those, so I'm not going to read them all. Really good. Okay, here's the, I guess the way to teach this is, well, I'll phrase it just like he did. Are you that? So you said what was needed, what's required, what is most important, and now it's being turned on the group like, are you these things? So I thought that was really an interesting way to get everyone's mind to do a 180 and kind of look back into the mirror and say, am I these things? And if you are, victory. And if they need improvement, you know, then let's get on that. So here's my 5th tip. I'm going to put heart, because I don't know how else to describe it, but I think we have to lead with heart. I think we're better when we lead with heart. And I think when we lead with heart, we have the things you just put in there. We have empathy. We listen. We're a good communicator because we generally care about people. And this has to win the day. You know, this has to be the thing that's in front of the train, not the thing that's mixed in the tools. You know, it's not one of the tools, it's the first tool. You know, it's the first thing we show that we're really committed. You know, isn't it interesting that the law, because agency is so, you know, sensitive, forces things like, you know, lawful obedience, loyalty, disclosing potential conflicts of interest. Like the law tries to do what I just said. Lead with heart. Lead with kindness and empathy and understanding. So when you do that, look, remember that most of the human communication is through tone, emphasis, body language. It's not in the words we use. Most of it is done by how someone feels about you. And so there's a sense to this, right? So I think this is a mindset, this is a check, you know, what's most important. And I think the reason why I keep coming back to this so often in coaching is because I think that's probably my number one objective, is to improve how we are kind and understanding to other people. And if you're better at that, you can mess up, guys. because they sense that your intention is good and they want you. Like they'd rather have someone be honestly failing than secretly failing, because they'll never know. That's dangerous. That's run, right? Run from that person. But if someone makes an honest mistake, is transparent about it, works to make amends, and was honest about it all along, no problem. We're human. We get forgiveness. Usually good people forgive and we move on. It's just part of the deal. The opposite is really damaging. Talking to an agent yesterday that was just thinking about Berkshire Hathaway, and we had a really nice conversation. And I brought this up as kind of like, what's the expectation of Berkshire Hathaway? And I think that there's this, can I tell you, like, so if we improve our ability to care about people, I think the way to do that is look at everything from their point of view. You know, the wear their shoes statements, you know, look at it through their lenses, you know, walk in their shoes, you know, these kinds of things. Really own that. Really own like what is going on with them. Why is it so important, this real estate transaction? I love an agent who says something like this, Steve. They say, Steve, are you sure you want to sell this home? You've been here so long. It must mean a lot to you. Are you sure that this is what you want to do? I love that. Here's the salesy person. Well, that sounds great, Steve. I'll tell you what, all we need to do to get started is have you sign the contract and I can get a sign up. If you want to tell me where you want to place the sign, I'd be happy to get started on this right away. Salesy. I'm aware of it. I'm mindful of it. I think it's part of our industry to understand sales process, but don't be salesy. And the only way to not be salesy is to look at through their lenses. They matter most, right? And I know I keep harping on this, so maybe that's enough. But
so Kevin, not Kevin, Will, we just said about heart. You remember that movie, Replacement Players?
Yeah.
Football, and he said that.
I do.
Yeah. So your point as well. You may want to share that with people. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you can't. This is why scouts are always saying you can't measure heart.
Yeah.
You know, like in athletics, they got all these statistics, right? Field goal percentage and 40 times and all of that. But can you measure heart? I'll tell you what, Britton Covey's got heart.
Yeah.
That kid has got passion, confidence, determination. Man, he's laser focused. That kid's got heart. And it's attractive, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, number 6. Love this one. When you're talking about problem, that's okay, but always be a calming influence. So the tip is be a calming influence. Calming influence. Boy, how many times have real estate transactions brought out heightened emotions? Yeah. It can happen, right? Buyers get mad, sellers get mad. It can be challenging for them. When you're moving their family, we have to understand that they're not at their best. Okay. Remember the statistics say, what's the most stressful thing in life? Well, it was like, it beat a funeral was moving. A funeral was on the list in the top 10, but buying a house, I think, was number 3. It was like getting married was number 1. So, but if anyone's engaged, I'm sorry about that. I'll just do it, do it. You'll be fine. You're not going to find someone like you anyway. Nor do you want anyone. No, so it is stressful. They're not at their best. Be a calming influence. This also means with your co-agent on the other side. Be a calming influence. One of my mentors said, we'll never, ever be a part of the wrecking crew. And that's always stuck with me. We don't tear things down. We build things up. And I think that's part of this being a calming influence. Okay. All right. What are we on to now? Number 7? Who's keeping track? Number 7, Jill says yes. Okay. Just write down Ritz-Carlton. So I got to tell you about this guy. Let me get his notes here. Oh my gosh, what you guys tease me about having energy. This guy, okay, 81 years old. He is the founder of Ritz-Carlton hotels, like in the what was it, 80s or something like that, with one goal in mind, to have the #1 highest rated hotel chain in the world. And he had, that was his dream. #1. So he empowered even the bellboys to solve the problem if they discovered one. If you discover a problem, it became your problem. Like, own it. Like, hey, if the TV doesn't work, he's like, that becomes your TV. You fix it. And he gave everyone $2,000 to fix whatever, like without asking, just fix it. And he had a pattern to this. Like, let me find it really quick. I'm thinking about the gym here, but there was more to it. Okay, maybe I'll find it in a second. So you've got, if you're in 6 feet of someone, you address them. Notice that it says really nice hotels. If Steve's walking down to the elevator, they would say, good morning, right? Good afternoon, good evening. No one ignores anyone. So that was one of his rules. The next was to own the problem. Like if it's your TV, you now own it, fix the problem. The next one was to delight them. To delight them. So that becomes,
Will,
yes, Kev.
one of the basis for all of Ritz-Carlton was he wanted the employees to anticipate the needs of the guests before they were even asked.
Yes.
They would actually think about what, if they were a guest, they were there, how would they want to be treated? What needs might they have, and anticipate those, and rather than waiting to be asked, offer to assist. And it became coined into a phrase, basically, ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen.
Nice. I'm so
That was
glad
a
you brought
motto.
that up, because he said, technology helps us with this. If we have someone who prefers to be on higher floors, the notes say that. And so he would, the person booking then would say, well, would you like a higher floor? Let me see if I can get you a higher floor. Would you like a lower floor? Would you like a view? Would you like to be closer to this or that? And if there was something in the notes that could be done, to Kevin's point, they delighted them and they anticipated their needs. So really good, Kev. Nice job. I didn't mean to sound so surprised. I just surprised that you know Ritz-Carlton.
I used to attend a lot of the Howard Brenton seminars back in the day. Those of you that are old enough to remember Howard Brenton, and he always held them at Ritz-Carlton's, and they always came in and spoke about how their customer service was created and how they anticipate the needs of their clients. And he says, if you learn nothing else at this seminar from your fellow agents, learn from the way you're being taken care of here in this hotel today. That's how you'll be successful in real estate.
Yeah, this guy was just absolutely not going to ever have a bad review in any way. I mean, they had like 98.7 or something, rating for Ritz-Carlton. I mean, they never had a bad review. I wrote this down. Let me tell you how passionate this guy was. Here's what he'd tell his managers. He'd say, the customer satisfaction is not negotiable. If you don't know how to do it, he says, I will move into your office. I'll sit in your chair and you can watch me do your job. And he literally would. This guy would go and stay at his hotels and teach the managers how to do this. And boy, we laughed our heads off at this guy. He's got a German accent. It speaks great, English, but a very heavy German accent. And he's shorter than me, which that's saying something, and he was just a spitball of energy. And I just love this thing where customer satisfaction is not negotiable, that everybody is, you're going to make sure that they're delighted. Jill Stringham and Angie just kind of come to mind here. I know not the only ones, but on this call, but they're really, really good at delighting people. They're small and simple things. They're They're just, it takes maybe 5 minutes or 2 minutes, but it's cards, it's emails, it's text, it's a little gift, it's chocolate, it's something. They're thinking about you, and then they did something, and it's really simple little things, you guys. So I think that one is an amazing tip. Now, today we're talking about how to improve our marketing presentation. And now we're talking about kind of delighting someone. Well, I think they can go hand in hand, because we're looking at their perspective, getting to know them. Okay, which brings me to number 8. So, and it came up in the communication here. I'm sorry, in the chat about communication. Okay, this one is to become a master listener. So this akin to this is to be a really good question asker, so that you can become a really good listener. And I noticed yesterday, I'll have to admit that when I had this really nice lady who was thinking about Berkshire Hathaway and another company, and she came to talk to me, and I was saying to myself, like, hey, Will, I know they're coming to ask about Berkshire. And I think it's important to answer these, but I really wanted to focus on what's her journey about. And I was in my head about this, saying, look, become a really good listener. And sure enough, she sits down and she's a really good listener. And so what does she do? She says, gosh, how did you get from Stringham to Brookshire? And I took the bait, and then I'm like, dang it, here I am talking about me. And I'm like, how do I get this back to her? And what a neat lady she was. She was an actor in the 80s. She ran an acupuncture business for movie stars, particularly Sandra Bullock and all of her friends. And she was often a gift from Sandra Bullock to other people on movie sets. There's a really interesting life, which I think when you're a really good listener, you should be drawn to the fact that everyone has an amazing story, and that should be something that's fun to discover. What's their story? What brought you to Park City? How did you end up here originally? What has it been like for you? Do you tell me more about that? Oh, you come twice a year? Well, why those 2 times? What's so meaningful about that? And why the transition? Tell me more about it. What do your kids think? What's the family think about this? I think you can just keep asking and asking and asking. And if you ever heard the 7 layers of why, if it's just why, you kind of sound like a 5-year-old, well, why? Well, why? You can't have that now. Why? That's a good question, asker. Okay. Now in the chat, we have 2 more things here. We have 5 minutes. So let me just tell you what our group did. If you'll go into chat, I need everyone's participation on this. So grab your chat. So this question is, your family, your occupation, your recreation, your dreams. John Lucky's given us a little, there's a structure to this and how you ask questions. How's your family? How's work? How's the occupation, right? How's the hobbies and recreation coming, and your vacations, and what do you hope for, and all these things. I think that's really, really good structure. And it's a good reminder. Thanks, John. Okay. All right. Number 1 thing you need to improve on in your marketing presentation. You go ahead and put that in the chat, something that you think you need to improve on. I need these answers, otherwise we can't do the little lesson here. And I've got 4 minutes to do it. So type it in quick as you can. Travis, are you typing? No, you're not typing. Okay. Sherry, you typing? Jill, you typing? Number 1 thing you need to work on. Yes, you did. The last two tips I have is number 8, or I'm sorry, 9 and 10. Are we
Yeah.
at 9 and 10? Yeah, 9 and 10. Okay, so because we're short on time here, let me just give them to you. Number 1 is study. This is an ebb and flow for me, guys. Sometimes I study like nonstop every day, hours, and then weeks will go by and I find myself going, I'm not really studying. Will you remember you become what you study? You become what you study. So what are you going to study? Everything we just put on there. Everything you just said you need help on is becoming, it's rising to the front of your mind for a reason. You become what you study. If you're studying nothing, I know this is scary, but a mentor told me, you study nothing, you're becoming nothing. Uh-oh. I'm like, man, gut punch. But if you are studying something like I see confidence and knowledge and things like that, put yourself to work. The last one is discipline, which is the work piece. There's a lot of happiness and absence of anxiety and clarity to things when we just go to work. We get into motion. A lot of times we do get a little paralyzed by, numbers of distractions. Maybe it'd be better tomorrow. I overanalyze it or things like that. So if you remember from the hexagon lessons, one of them is to start the first thing. What's the first task? Schedule first task. Most underutilized tool is the calendar. So really for coaching, all we have to do right now is to go onto our calendar and put a reminder in the morning to study. That's all you got to do right now. So tomorrow morning, a reminder that says study. Yeah, hour of power, right? Really, really important in our mornings. I hope that's why you're making coaching a part of your diet throughout the week, because these things are really lifting. You become what you study, and we need the discipline to get into motion. When you do that, a lot of these confidence comes from that, right? So I've already asked you what you wanted to work on. These are excellent and just amazing answers. So I hope that you'll do that. Next week, I've got 2 object lessons I thought were amazing coming from some of these presenters. And I'm out of time, so I'll do them next week. Was this helpful? Do you think that you could be a little better when you're engaging sellers and marketing, building value? Okay. Yes. Thanks, Jeff.
Very, very helpful.
Okay. Good. Well, you are my reason. I just said to Jeff, I've known Jeff, you guys, for 20 something years. So many of you are my friends that are on this, in this company. And it's easy to find my motivation and why, because I really want you to succeed. And I want you to be the best level professional in our industry, kind of a beacon of hope really for our industry when it's become so salesy. And I think we're getting a disconnect on what really we're all about. But I think Brookshire has it figured out, you guys. We've got it figured out. And it's mostly because you all are already mostly perfect, right? I don't need the ego boost here, but you guys really are amazing. And all these things are little tweaks, to keep us climbing up and becoming a little more than we are today. So I sure love you guys. I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you for allowing me to do this. I love being your broker and helping you. Call me anytime. And even if it's late, yes, don't call Kevin Larson. You can call me. You can call me anytime. You can call Kevin anytime too. But we sure love helping you guys, don't we, Jill and Kevin? Yes. Don't we just get so? Yeah, we love
absolutely.
Helping. Yeah, you are a reason. Well, have a fantastic day, you guys. Love you so much,
everybody.
Okay, have a great day. You can turn it off now, Joe.